Often people do not know why using group work is a good idea. For this reason, it is essential that time is given to explain why using group work is the best approach to learning in a given situation. If you're going to involve someone in what may appear to be a complex activity, they first need to trust in you, in the activity, and in their own ability to succeed by undertaking the activity. Without that clarity and buy-in, it's likely that the learning will be undermined and students will resent being made to learn in this way. But be careful, students may already have used group work on their course, and they should have already been through activities that develop the rationale for using group work. You don't want to overdo it. So find out and do not labour this, but do, however, look at the current situation with them. Ensure everyone knows that group work is the best approach for your situation and what it will mean to them in practice. This presentation directly draws upon the work of Phil Race and his book 500 Tips on Group Learning. The book provides a useful, pragmatic exploration of using group work effectively in higher education teaching. So, first of all, let's think about intrinsic motivation. And Race's first tip is to get people thinking about what's in it for me to learn this collaboratively. Learning and motivation are personal matters and require personal investment. The learner must begin by understanding the benefits of an activity according to their own frames of reference. Secondly, ask students who are already learning well through collaboration why it works for them. Talking together about intentions and motivations for engagement can make it clear to those students who are not sure about group work or even actively object to it. Ask people to talk about when learning with others has really helped them. Hearing these accounts will help to develop their trust in what they are being asked to do. Get people to upgrade their reasons for learning in groups. Even where people have a reason to engage, work with them to develop their rationale so that it is realistic, more fully developed, and therefore reliable. Both staff and students, when asked about why group work is used, will often reply, "It's good for employability, isn't it?" Or "It develops teamwork." While these are both true, they can feel quite abstract. Help your students to find more tangible reasons for learning collaboratively, so that when the learning becomes more difficult, they have something stronger to keep them going. One way of doing this is to try a post-it note activity on the benefits of group work. Get students to first list 2 or 3 ideas on their own, and then as a group of 3 or 4, pool these ideas together. Get them to compare the ideas and synthesize them. You can even use and photograph flip charts or whiteboards and upload these records to Blackboard. All of these activities will demonstrate to the students the value of group work, of course. Race's fourth point is to establish personal ownership for wanting to learn. Different reasons for learning fire different people. It is best when everyone in the learning group feels a sense of ownership over their own rationale for learning in the group. So ensure each person is clear about their motivation and recognize how these different motivations can complement each other in the group. Ask students to explore and value their different motivations. Develop personal learning outcomes. Race says, get people to work out their own intended learning outcomes for group learning. In addition to the stated intended learning outcomes for the module or course, ask each student to articulate what the learning means to them at this point, their personal learning outcomes. Ask them, what do you want to get out of this activity at this stage? Suggest to people that they make their intentions public. It can be particularly useful to let other members of a learning group in on planned personal targets and deadlines. They can then offer a significant driving force for the individual and for the group. Public thinking is about making a commitment to yourself and to others. It is a necessary dimension of effective team formation, ensuring that peers become clear about what they are doing individually and collectively and why. This articulation then forms the basis of an informal agreement amongst the group members for their collective engagement. Public thinking is formative and demonstrates collective trust. It is essential to effective group work for building up ideas more quickly, developing broader perspectives, defining boundaries, for making group decisions, ensuring everyone has a voice, modelling good approaches, allowing for different points of view and interpretations, and for fostering a sense of achievement, self-efficacy, and team efficacy. The seventh point that Race offers for developing intrinsic motivation is to get the group active. Get active. Channel group members' motivation into learning by doing. Establish and develop intrinsic motivation through activity as opposed to too much cognitive or intellectual reasoning, especially in the early stages of a piece of group work. Active engagement, for example, around solving problems together, demands a positive and open attitude and allows the group to discover and examine the nuances of a learning topic. Help group members to want to learn from feedback. Action initiates a valuable feedback loop and creates an experiential cycle in which learning happens through reflection. Making feedback explicit through activity develops good lifelong habits for reflective learning. Encourage people to want to digest what they learn. Knowledge is complex and uncertain and is usually affected by context. Making sense of knowledge, especially as an outcome of active group work, can take time to process. Students need to know this, that meaningful knowledge matures over time. The 10th tip here is to get people in learning groups to look back at their successful learning. Reflecting on learning is individually and collectively challenging. However, it allows the learner to celebrate and take pride in what they have done. Through reflection, the learner can identify the value of the active process, even where they may feel deflated due to an apparent failure in what they have actually produced. Take the time at the end to celebrate and reflect on what has been learned. Now let's look at needing to learn in groups. This is extrinsic motivation. So Phil Race offers 5 tips here. Extrinsic motivation is sometimes necessary and can require that the learner develops and is aware of their tenacity and their resilience. Being aware of one's ability to motivate yourself, even when you don't want to engage, is a valuable trait needed by everyone in life. Group work creates opportunities to reflect on this. So the first tip, Ask people about what kept them going in the past. We've all succeeded despite ourselves, and it is valuable to reflect on our personal capabilities to be successful in challenging circumstances. Secondly, necessity is the mother of much learning. Whatever the motivations, groups need to agree the value of engaging. The challenge for the teacher is to give them good, meaningful reasons that will sustain them beyond the superficial rationale of getting the mark. Learning is a foreign land best encountered in the company of others. Thirdly, get group members to look beyond their learning. Sometimes a challenging activity can dominate a student's ability to put the activity in context, and this can make it difficult for them to develop a broader sense of meaning. Make time for exploring the wider, authentic rationale of a task. For example, by looking at how the learning can be applied in other situations. The fourth tip for addressing extrinsic motivation that Race gives is strong, positive human support fuels learning. People like to help other people, and so encouragement from other people in or beyond the group can foster a sense of commitment that acknowledges the supportive space created by others. The fifth tip that Phil Race gives us is people like to be praised and celebrated. Crossing the finish line and the glory in doing this can drive people on and through the pain barrier. It's worth thinking about how success is recognized and celebrated, therefore, and how pride can be fostered. And finally, I'll leave you with this notion of bookending group work. Take time to get students to find their way in to the group and the group activity. And then take time to celebrate and reflect on what has been achieved. And this will empower them for their next engagement with a group.